Welcome back to Flashpoint, talking about, of course, the events of this past week. Congressman Bishop, I find myself, as I watch those of us in the American press trying to figure out how we got it wrong. The endorsements were 99%, it seemed, all went the other direction. And I guess I've come to the conclusion that this was a little bit of the French Revolution, that we had the bourgeoisie, which includes the American media perhaps, completely disconnected from what was going on just to keep it in those terms, in the proletariat. Is that sort of what feels like happened this week?
Yes, absolutely. And you look back in Michigan's history, go back to 2010. I think that's even closer to the French Revolution to me.
Sure.
Because, I mean,
we don't go back to the 1780s, you're right.
In time-wise, but I'm talking about to the people of Michigan, it's closer. We recall 8 years of significant downturn in this state. We were being buried and driven into the ground by the leadership. 2010, we completely turned the state around. We didn't seat the entire state legislature, new governor. Since 2010, there has been nothing but an immediate uptick in the economy, and we're known nationwide now as the comeback state. I knew that this revolution, as you called it, was going to move to the national level, because it wasn't just Michiganders who felt this way, who felt oppressed and who felt abandoned by their government. It's nationally, and it's not just East Coast, West Coast, it's in the heartland of the country who just didn't want to deal with it anymore. They were 100% fed up.
And Congresswoman Dingell, you and I've talked about this before. That was what Bernie Sanders' support was telling us too, wasn't it? I mean, there really was, Donald Trump may have been the biggest beneficiary of it, but the signs of it were beyond that.
So I'm going to make several comments. Okay. First of all, this isn't a mandate on either side. We're a terribly divided country that's got to figure out a way to come together. And I think that the demonstrations out there, let's not diminish anybody's right for freedom of speech down to being young. And I think that that is important. I think that what happened in this election, I said it was happening in Michigan, I did recognize it, was that working men and women, when they go into the voting poll, all they want are simple things in life. They want to make enough money to live in a safe neighborhood, put food on the table, to be able to go to the doctor when they need to, buy medicine, educate their children, and have their children have hope for a better life. And the disconnect, I think people, working men and women across all race, creed, and color, went into the voting booth and were frustrated, and that frustration found itself with a it's slim edge. So let's not anybody think that there's a mandate. We got to find a way to help. We as a party and as Americans have to find a way that we deliver to all people and that we protect all people. And so that's going to be, we in the Democratic Party have to hear that people feel abandoned and that we're not delivering for them. But we need you all to say, what's happening out there isn't okay. We can't go backwards on race relations or Hispanic or Muslims. And you can't let the Muslims in this country be worried that they're going to be targeted, or Jewish people targeted because of faith or religion. So we all have to work together to remember what the American dream is and what the pillar of the Constitution is: freedom of religion, freedom of speech.
You're not going to get any argument from me or our Republican colleagues. I can tell you that. Everything you've just said makes perfect sense. There's no effort afoot to try and further polarize from our perspective. It's the exact opposite. This country couldn't be farther apart than it is right now. Our objective in the first 100 days is to put together an agenda that shows the American people that we can work together, and spend that first 100 days talking about the very issues you were just talking about. Healthcare being a primary issue, jobs in the economy being the other. Showing the American people that that government works for them and not the other way around. And I think if we can do that, we'll bring a lot of people together. Race, religion, everything that divides us, we can come together and show that first and foremost, we're Americans.
Let me chime in real quick. Debbie, there's no diminishing of my perspective, the American dream. I'm a product of that, and you know that. Dad built trucks on the line for General Motors. I'm the oldest of 7, first in my extended family to go to college. I'm directly familiar with the American dream, and no one says that shouldn't be available for everyone, regardless of race, religion, background, nationality. No one, I don't believe it, and that's why I said early on, we need to have a bipartisan approach to addressing the problems like healthcare or our tax situation. Pick whatever you want to talk about. Is to talk across the aisle about that, but then have action. The one thing that's clear to me the voters talked about is enough talk, enough debate, enough arguing back and forth, do something, because no decision is a decision. I learned that in my business. I talked to my managers about it, and we have to make decisions and move. We can't sit there. That's gone on far too long.
Can I make one point too, Devin? Sure. This division that occurs, that we're talking about right now, didn't occur in the past year for as long as this has happened. This division has happened over the past 8 years, and it's worse than ever. And I think before we start pointing the finger and accusing each other of causing the division, we really have to look within ourselves and find out what we might be responsible for as well. And then find a way to come together. But it makes no sense for us to continue to point the finger.
That's why I just said, that's why I tried to, the point that I tried to make. I also want to say on health care, we have to remember that 20 million people have health insurance that didn't have it when that bill happened. That people who have pre-existing conditions now are able to have health insurance, that there's no lifetime cap. We have to remember, I don't think that either of you are opposed to any of the key things that the Affordable Care Act did to help Americans. So whatever is going to happen, we need to make sure that I do believe if you live in this country, you've got a right to affordable quality health care, and we've got to figure out how we're going to deliver it.
You need to make a distinction between health insurance and health care, and they're two different things, and you know that.
Portia, I'll let you jump in just a second, but before we get to Congressman Bishop, when you say we're going to, as the refrain went through all this, we're going to do away with Obamacare, does that mean doing away with health care for 20 million people who now have it?
There is a way to address this issue, the issues that she talked about, allowing people to stay on health care until they're 26. Pre-existing conditions, all issues that are fundamental to the Affordable Care Act that are important to maintain can be maintained. But the key is to make health care affordable. And you're focusing on the 20 million who now have health insurance, but their health insurance is out of their reach as well because the deductible and the cost of health care has skyrocketed. Not to mention the other 300 million Americans who are out of, families' backs are being broken and small businesses.
And medicine's way too expensive.
Yes, absolutely. Portia, you've been patient. Let me let you.
Well, I think that everything that's been raised is an important issue. And I think that without question, the American people want to get to those topics. We want to talk about education for everyone. We want to talk about economic opportunities for everyone, working class families. I mean, you talk about your father. My father came here from the Deep South and worked at Ford's Motor Company first. So before he went on to, was able to go to law school and become a lawyer. The reality, though, is that until you talk about the fear that was raised or brought to the surface during this campaign, you can't get people to focus on those issues. What I'm simply saying is that you have to acknowledge that the people are out there protesting, people are crying in Debbie's arms because they're afraid. And until you talk about that, you can't talk about the rest.
Wouldn't we have had the same dynamic if it had gone the other way? It just would have been a different set of people feeling disenfranchised and mad?
I don't necessarily know that the same things were being said. Now, I will be the first one to say we did not run a perfect candidate. She was as perfect as you can get, I mean, in terms of had done all the right things and probably much more prepared to be the president. But I definitely think there would have been discussion on either side.
Sorry, I got to get to one more quick break. We'll continue with more. This is Flashpoint on Local 4. Right back.
Don't miss Detroit's original holiday tradition, presenting the Nutcracker featuring Ballet Met Columbus for 4 dazzling performances November 25th, 26th, and 27th at the Detroit Opera House. All matinees feature photo ops, live reindeer, and a sugar plum parade on stage. The Nutcracker, featuring the Michigan Opera Theater Orchestra, is Detroit's best family holiday value. For tickets, call 313-237-7464 or visit michiganopera.org.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Every day you inspire us to move forward, to stay on our toes, to do more, better. As the health insurer chosen by more people in Michigan for over 75 years, we're constantly rethinking what we do to protect what's important in your ever-changing lives. So keep on keeping on. We'll be right there with a plan that's right for you, just like we've always been. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Confidence comes with every card.
What is DTE Energy doing to help support Michigan communities?
They support a lot, like the National Cherry Festival in Traverse City, Art Prize in Grand Rapids, not to mention help fund the Career Technology Center at Monroe County Community College. And also helping make the streets of Detroit safer.
Wow, that's a lot.
You're telling me. I'm exhausted. DTE Energy. Know your own power.
We heard it over and over again. The election was going to come down to Michigan.
We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
It's because we're stronger together that really makes America great.
Welcome back. A few more minutes here before we wrap things up. I'd like to let you all talk about priorities. Where's the best place to start as we move forward? First, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned education. That was one issue that almost no one talked about through the entire, how many ever months, 18 months you want to go back on this election cycle. Not very much conversation about American education.
I know, and I've seen reports that they might consider Ben Carson for the Secretary of Education, which frightens me to all ends. But nevertheless, I mean, you talk about places like Michigan, certainly places like Detroit, and all over the state of Michigan, where we do not have the educational opportunities for all that we should have. We are still not at a place where we are sending young people into this world prepared to do the jobs that are coming forward.
I didn't want to give that one to you as your priority,
right.
But you did mention that one. I thought that was worth mentioning.
I actually think that is one of my priorities. One of the things I see as a priority, criminal justice reform is still a priority that I think on a bipartisan level people can get behind. It's something that had been talked about in previous administrations. There were a number of Republicans that worked with the Democratic House to get that done. Let's continue that work.
Congresswoman Dingell, where do you start?
We have to make sure that the economy stays strong, that we continue to build jobs, that everybody feels like they've got opportunity. And healthcare will be my #1 priority because I know it's going to be one of yours, and we've got to make sure that I just am so committed to making sure every American has access to affordable quality health care. And we got to do something about prescription drugs. Medicine is way too expensive and over the top for too many people.
Then can I guess that you see ways where Obamacare can be changed?
I have said more than once, I've almost gotten killed for it, that the last perfect law was the 10 Commandments, and in this day and age.
Those get broken all the time.
I wish you all wouldn't say we were repealing it. There are parts of it that are very important, and we've got to work to improve the parts that need to be fixed. But they're going to repeal, and they're going to be happy with that word. I want to keep the core. What happened there?
Well, healthcare is one of the priorities, and I think we should stop saying they and say we're going to find an answer.
Even give you that.
And in terms of education, I hope to serve on the Education and Workforce Committee. That's my background career-wise. And Virginia Fox, who's likely to be the chair, has indicated reauthorizing higher education as a priority in 2015, in the 115th Congress, I'm sorry. Yep. And I hope to participate in that and make a difference so we can improve the education post-secondary anyways on that and move forward to that. So we'll see how that works out. That'd be a priority.
Congressman Bishop, what do you walk in wanting to do first?
I think I would encourage folks who are concerned about the agenda to check out better.gop. It sets forth the agenda for the Republican conference. It addresses issues that are important to people and the people we represent: national security, jobs in the economy, tax reform, and health care reform. But also high on that list is being reasonable in the way we budget and addressing this $20 trillion debt. It is a matter of national urgency that we stop ignoring that and get on that.
What do you both do now about a lot of Republicans, especially those in leadership positions, who distance themselves from early on from the man who's now their president? It seems to me there's some bridges to be built inside the party as well.
He wasn't my first, second, third, fourth
I recall our first conversation about this, yes.
But he won the Republican primary. I got behind him because he's a Republican. He is a Republican leader. I supported him in the presidency. Now, as an American, it's my responsibility to support my president. I think he's on the right path. He's spoken to our leadership. He's agreed to our agenda. And I think we'll have a good working relationship together. I look forward to the opportunity.
I got about a minute left. So.
Carly Fiorina was my choice. It didn't work out. And I then supported Donald Trump as the nominee, and we'll continue to work with him. We need to get something done, and he's the president-elect.
Congresswoman Dingell, you are nothing if not an optimist. You've always believed that there's a way forward working together. Do you go in that way now, or do you go in beat up?
No, I'm not beat up. I'm going to fight for all the things that I believe in. I'm going to fight against those horrible, hateful things that were talked about. But we do need to work together. And other leaders of our party, like Bernie Sanders, have said we'll work together for working people. Infrastructure, we didn't mention that. He said that was one of his top priorities. I have another flat tire this week. We need to, we can create jobs and fix our roads. Let's work together.
Thanks. It's been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate it, obviously, in very fascinating times. Thank you for being here as well. Meet the Press is coming up next, right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you'll be right back here next week for Flashpoint.